Everybody's gonna hear this. Me and you just doing to our own kind of. We promise we're not going into the music industry.
Hey, I can play guitar.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. I believe this is our third episode of the 2021 season. Tonight is going to be fun. Me and Armany really enjoy conversations like the one we're going to have tonight. A little bit of overrated, underrated kind of topics, a little bit of fun leading up to the season. But we got a little bit to discuss before we get there. I had some news this week. I will be adding a new dirt track to my rapport, to my resume. Obviously, people that know, you have to appreciate it. So typically, I'd worked at Anderson Motor Speedway, which is a great asphalt racetrack in the upstate of South Carolina, and filming some stuff. But the juice really isn't worth the squeeze at this point. Just with the way they still do it, we still do like DVDs. So I just film it. My buddy edits it. And, it's just to the point where it just doesn't seem like there's enough interest to keep that going right now. So we were already looking about stepping away. And obviously, I work at Lawrence County Speedway on Saturday doing their social media, and I really, really, really enjoy that. And I just really like dirt racing now more at a local level. I just feel like dirt's a little looser. Everybody's laid back. They're all fun. It's a family. And dirt racing is also, you can still home make. Bubba Pollard, I could go on another topic for another day. Bubba Pollard nailed it why dirt racing is really becoming king in the South over asphalt racing. But that's, again, another conversation for another day. And so I was like, man, let me see if I can find something on Fridays because my Fridays are probably going to be open now. And so my new gig is at Livonia Speedway, and I'll be doing social media for them. Livonia is a pretty big deal. I know the World of Outlaws late models at least come there one time, potentially even more than that. So Livonia is pretty big. They run like 8 or 9 weekly divisions. They have a lot of big touring series. Really, really, really cool place. So cool opportunity. I'll be at dirt tracks late at night into the morning on Friday and Saturday nights. I'll be a very tired person on the weekends. So it's great that we made the move to not do this on Sundays because I would be pissed. A good move. But for you, I don't know if you really have any news, but you're going to be in a pretty cool situation this weekend. I believe you, sir, are attending the Rolex 24. I made him walk off and leave. Oh man! So you're gonna be talking a little bit about the Rolex 24 tonight. Just previewing it. If for some reason you just hate sports cars, whatever, don't run away. We're just gonna just preview it a little bit. You as a fan, have you ever been to the Rolex before?
No, never been.
I've never been. So I'm used to the NASCAR setting. It's not timed. We know it's gonna be 4 or 5 hours, and that's really it. How do you expect this to go? How do you think this is going to be different than a NASCAR race? Like, what are you expecting going to the Rolex 24?
I honestly, I have no idea. Like, when I went to get the hotels, I was even like, do I get a hotel for Saturday night? Like, or do I stay at the track for literally the entire 24 hours?
Grandstands.
Exactly. Spend the night at the grandstand. Everything got some pillows there, but yeah, it's going to be fun, starting the new team, Motor Minister Motorsports. We're getting our feet under the water in the Rolex 24. I'll be the owner and the driver, driving all 24 hours. So, I only slept 3.5 hours last night. I got up at 2:30 in the morning. So, I think I could do it. So, we'll probably finish dead last in our class. So, we'll probably, never be seeing the track again. But in all seriousness, I'm super excited. I've been trying to go to this race for years. My buddy Randy, he's been clamoring me. He's not going this year, unfortunately, but he's been telling me for years, you got to go to the Rolex. You got to go to the Rolex. You got to have the blast. And I'm finally going to the Rolex. I'll be leaving tomorrow morning, and I'll be shooting up from Fort Lauderdale up to Daytona. It takes about 3.5 hours. And be my second trip to Daytona. Obviously, I won back in 2017 for the Daytona 500 when I won tickets off I won those giveaways. But I'm really excited. It's going to be my first non-NASCAR race. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Even like half the field's run a NASCAR race at this point.
Yeah, the only non-NASCAR thing I've been to is drag racing. The NHRA, where I only watch the top fuels and the funny cars. That's all I cared about. Like, give me your best and brightest right now. And that was badass. The ground, when they say the ground shakes, the ground shakes. And I mean, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. I'm not going to go drop a bunch. I got free tickets. I'm not going to drop a bunch of money to go to HRA events, but I respect it. I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, I'm going to go to an IndyCar race one day. If the opportunity presents itself, I would probably go to a Formula One race if it logistically made sense. Sports cars, I mean, if somebody gave me free tickets and the only way I think I could ever convince myself to go to the Rolex 24 is I would have to have like a group of buddies and us go down there and just for having a good time. I'm not a big drinker, but I'm not, you know, we might drink part of the time, but you know, we're eating good food. We're having fun. We got a bus or a van or something. We're camping. I'd go then. Other than that, I'm not volunteering to go to the Rolex 24. I got a lot of respect for it, but
I'm just saying, hey, listen, next year I turn 21. You mentioned drinking.
Hey, so question, yes or no? Will a blanket be packed?
No.
So if you fall asleep in the grandstand, you're just falling asleep right there in the bench.
Indeed.
God. Well,
Probably
you have
robbed the grandstand. I mean, for who knows? Maybe someone will chuck me onto the racetrack and that's get ran over by DPI.
God, let's not put that into the air. But you know, obviously NASCAR connections. Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, both running. Are there any other NASCAR guys running this weekend?
Austin Dillon, I think Cody Ware.
Yeah, I remember Austin.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I know. I didn't listen to the quote, but I think Bob Pockers was talking about something about Dillon wants to, hoping this could maybe help with his road racing regimen. Obviously, it'd be cool to see Chase. I know Chase and them have the pole. I know he wasn't part of the qualifying session, but I know his team is on the pole for the DPI. So that'll be really cool to see. Hopefully, best of luck for him. The Ally car looks awesome, so it'd be really cool for Jimmy to start out the year fierce and fun. But I'm glad you're looking forward to it. Somebody's got to attend it, so you know at least they'll have one fan there in attendance, and it will be Armany.
Hey, they opened the infield, which surprised me.
Yeah, I think Joseph said that. I think Allmendinger's also running, and I think he said he was the fastest FP2. You know what that means? I probably don't. So, yeah.
Free practice 2 is the only thing I can think of.
Okay, so fastest in the second practice. There we go. But anyways, so let's get into what I do know, and that is NASCAR racing. You know, obviously the sports car stuff is something you enjoy, and I don't have a problem with people that do enjoy it. I get it. It's fun. It's unique. They kind of have their own mark on the racing world. But obviously our bread and butter is NASCAR. We're NASCAR by the numbers. We're not IMSA by the numbers. So let's get to it. Something, man, you thought about, you know, we really enjoy these opinion pieces and having fun when there's not huge news and there's not stats to talk about. There's not results to talk about. We don't have any real racing to talk about just yet. So we were like, what can we do to have fun? We had an open week. We didn't have anything scheduled this week. We already kind of talked about storylines we were looking forward to this year. So we figured let's go do an underrated and overrated list because that is always a fun topic. If someone always gets their feelings hurt.
We know how you are with that.
Yeah, someone always gets their feelings hurt. I'm always hurting someone's feelings. I mean, if people didn't see my Twitter rant, so I think it was Sunday. I mean, yeah. So let's get straight into it. We wanted to start out with the underrated list. So me and you both ranked 5 drivers, 1 to 5. We each have our own individual list. We have not seen each other's list. We have not discussed each other's list. So when we say this, you know, we have not heard each other's answers. This is all clean reactions, fun reactions. Hopefully nobody gets cussed out. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So starting out first, we're going to do, again, the underrated list. So obviously my definition of underrated is not necessarily, you know, it's not a Anthony Alfredo was underrated and he's going to go out and potentially compete for the playoffs. They can even be great, but people seem to just be sleeping on what they could potentially do this year. So with that being said, Armany, you're going to kick this off. Number 5, top 5 underrated drivers heading into the Cup Series 2021. Who is your number 5 underrated driver?
Number 5, I'm going to go with William Byron, the driver of the number 24. 2 horrendous paint schemes that they dropped. Terrible. Jeff Gordon ran a black Exalted car, but I do not want to see that again. That Exalted car is hideous. Here's why I got William Byron. Yeah, he hasn't really done nothing in his 3 years in Cup. He got that 1 win at Daytona, but he was out in the first round last year. I mean, so really 2020 was kind of a step back, in my opinion, from 2019, even though the stats really say otherwise. I mean, he didn't get a top 5 until the second race at Dover. That's how bad his season was. So here's why I got him under number 5. Rudy Fugel's his crew chief. Now, one joke I used to have like last year is Rudy Fugle was literally the god himself of the trucks. It's like literally God himself came down to the heavens and then reincarnated himself into the image of Rudy Fugle. And then he just dominated trucks. Unless your name's Christian Eckes, and you can't do nothing with Rudy Fugle. Even though Christian Eckes, I think, is a very talented race car driver.
Right.
Fugle and Byron have worked with each other before. 2016, Byron wins 7 races, nearly makes the final 4, only from a blown engine, and Rudy Fugle was the crew chief. So unlike Chad Knaus, unlike, what was his crew chief before? Kevin Grubb, I think was his name. He's got experience with Rudy Fugle. I do think that the truck package is more in line with the Cup package than, let's say, the Xfinity Series package. So Rudy Fugle being a longtime Truck Series crew chief, I think he's going to adapt a lot more to being a rookie crew chief way faster than someone from like the Xfinity Series would be going to Cup. So again, with that prior knowledge with William Byron, that's why I think William Byron is not a lot of people are really going to talk about, okay, I would not be surprised if 2021 is a breakout year for William Byron. I would not be surprised to see him win multiple races a year, maybe finish top 10 in points. Because no one's really talking about him. They're probably going to think he's going to be out in the first round like it was this year. But people are sleeping on that 24 car. So I got William Byron, that 24 team, at number 5.
He's definitely a hot seat driver. I think Fugle is interesting. I forgot about that crew chief change. I was excited when it happened. I think I think he could be a hidden gem. We'll see. Definitely not a bad option to bring him in there and see what he can do. Didn't think about Willie B. Willie B has not impressed me in his first few years. Really expected to see more at this point. We'll see. He's a hot seat guy. He's still very young. Hendrick is good to invest in him for the long haul. But Fugle could be really interesting. If he can figure some things out, he could, you never know, but he seems like a guy that could one day be an upper echelon crew chief in the Cup Series. My number 5 guy, I originally had a completely different list, and I was like, man, I just don't feel comfortable with this list. I've got to rethink this list. My number 5 driver, I'm actually going to switch this on the fly. My number 5 driver is going to be Austin Dillon. I was going to have him 4, but I'm going to switch my 5 and 4. Austin Dillon, I think Austin Dillon showed some flashes at the end of last year that, in the playoffs, where you're like, this dude, he made it out of the first round. I think he had an engine problem. Without an engine problem, he may have made it out of the second round. Chevrolet is working together as a team now. Hendrick, RCR, all of them have come together, kind of like what Toyota and Ford have done, and they're working together. That could be positive for the Chevy camp. And RCR, it's not going to hurt them. I definitely think Austin Dillon, I'm not going to say he's going to go win races, but I think they're going to compete for the playoffs again, which is probably also good news for Tyler Reddick. I think a lot of people still just think Austin Dillon is regular Austin Dillon, but I think Chevrolet may have found a little bit of something. Obviously, they won the championship, and Chase Elliott was in great form to finish off the year. So maybe they found something, and Austin Dillon was not bad last year. He's always a mid-tier driver, but with what he's doing, he won a race. He made the playoffs, almost made it to the second round of the playoffs. So Austin Dillon is who I have. I think, he had a 14.4 average finish in the playoffs last year. That doesn't sound amazing, but you can average a 14th place finish. You have a very good shot to be competing for the playoffs. So we'll see. Chevrolet's supposed to be better, and that's who I have for number 5. So rolling on, number 4 for you. Who you got?
You're pretty much like my number 4 was Austin Dillon, honestly. You pretty much hit it on the head. RCR, I think they're going to take a step up, especially with those ECR engines, them and Hendrick, working together. We saw that's the engine that Chase Elliott used last year to win the championship. So I think they're going to do wonders. Obviously, I think Reddick is going to keep pushing Austin Dillon to do better than he's ever done before. I think RCR is going to be in a great spot going into 2021. I'm calling it now. RCR, they're going to be if we were to do dark horse teams, I'd put probably RCR number 1. They're going to be scary good next year, I think. Maybe not, winning championships. I can see them winning multiple races with both drivers next year. So, my number 4 is pretty quick, but like you said, Austin Dillon.
Yeah, RCR does have. When I was originally making my season predictions with Beard, I believe next week will be our season predictions that I really enjoy doing every year. I had one thing that was kind of negative about RCR, but it's kind of changed since I really sat down and thought about it. And I'm like, dude, I think they have a shot next year. So we will see. My number 4, who I was going to put number 5 on switch number 4, is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is a guy that I'm not necessarily sold on going out and winning races and this shit. I mean, there's always the chance that he's going to have the best chance to do this. But I think a lot of people, and obviously it's been trendy to dislike Bubba Wallace at this point, for a lot of it for political factions, all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty thing to not like Bubba Wallace. Don't forget, Bubba Wallace can drive a race car. With Kyle Busch Motorsports, he won 5 or 6 races. And then he had a one-off truck series race a couple of years ago. Won that race, started one truck race, won one truck race that year. At Roush, he probably should have won at Roush. Roush was a mark on his career, but his second year when they ended up having to shut the team down, I think he had like 6 or 7 top 10s in the first 8 or 9 races. Was sitting like 3rd or 4th in points, and they had to shut down the team because of lack of funding. But Bubba can drive these things, but you've got to have the budget and the equipment, just like anybody. I mean, people consistently don't understand the lack of budget at Richard Petty Motorsports. So we're going to see going in, but I think Bubba is a guy you can look at him both ways. Bubba is a guy that people forget has talent because it's been a few years. And I think with the right formula, I don't know if they're going to win, but they're going to compete and they're going to be a threat for the playoffs at some point this season. So I'm going to go with underrated. Who's your number 3?
Number 3, I originally had him at number 4, but I bumped up to number 3. I'm going to go with Mark Truex Jr. Only got 1 win last year. Was down in the round of 8. But he was the second best JGR car. And he had a pretty good hot streak of like 8 or 9 straight top 3 finishes. Going on the number side, he had 23 top 10s and 15 top 5s. I believe that's the exact same amount he had back in 2019, minus 1 top 10. I believe he had 24 in 2019, obviously 7-1. I think he and James Small, they're going to kick it off again. I think that team has a lot of momentum. Again, they performed some really good stats last year. They probably would have won if they probably would have won Martinsville also. I mean, like we talked about, and Mark Truex Jr., people talk about how Chase Elliott's going to win all these road course races. Again, Mark Truex Jr., he's a very close second when it comes to, competing with Chase Elliott for the road courses. So I think we're going to see Truex win multiple races again. I think last year was kind of a one-off, new crew chief with all the change. I think now they're finally accustomed to each other. We're going to see that 19 car back up front. We're going to see him winning multiple races again next year. And I think that it's kind of weird saying Mark Truex Jr. now is a dark horse for the championship, which really was what his career was like back in like 2012 to 2014. So I guess it's back to standard, but we're going to see that 19 car compete for the championship again. And keep an eye on those predictions next week. So you're going to see that 19 car way up the standings. I'm just going to give a little hint.
Yeah, I think Truex is done winning titles, in my opinion. I think he's never going to be the same without Cole Pern. Cole Pern was a great crew chief, and you very rarely see these days great crew chiefs. And so I don't see it, but that's why we have different opinions on here. That's the point of the show. It wouldn't be great if we just had the same driver in every single slot. I see what you're saying. I definitely see where you're coming from. I think he is a driver that could classify underrated. I just happen to think the season may go a different way. So my number 3 driver is the defending Cup Series champion, Chase Elliott. I have a little mini rant here because you're probably wondering, how is Chase Elliott on an underrated list?
You better have a good explanation for this.
All I heard half the year last year was that Alex Bowman is the lead driver at Hendrick Motorsports.
Oh, boy.
I've already heard this year Kyle Larson's the number 1 guy at Hendrick Motorsports.
I mean, they're not wrong.
Dude literally just won the championship 3 months ago. And everyone wants to tell me that Chase Elliott is all of a sudden just going to get smoked by Kyle Larson, who hadn't been in a Cup car in 10 months, who's already struggled to win races in his 6-year Cup Series career. And you listen, is Chip Ganassi racing Hendrick Motorsports? No, it is not. But Hendrick Motorsports hadn't been Hendrick Motorsports for a few years. At a certain point a few years ago, they were comparable rides. Chip Ganassi racing wasn't bad when Kyle Larson was going out and winning Michigan twice a year. So, everybody wants to forget those moments. So I have Chase on the underrated list for the simple point that you win a championship, and yet now you're surprisingly not the number 1 guy at your team because this young hotshot dirt guy is coming back. I've seen it 50-50. It's not a ton. It's not all one-sided, but I have definitely seen my fair share of Kyle Larson's number 1 guy at Hendrick. I can't wait till he just blows Chase Elliott out of the water this year. Even though Chase beats him in pretty much every statistical category you can have over their careers. Chase Elliott might as well be the fourth or fifth. He might not even be ranked in the top four, Hendrick, and there's only 4 drivers. So, you can only win 11 Cup races in 5 years in a championship, or 4 years, however many years. You can only win 11 races in a championship, but you can't lead your team. Even though the rest of your teammates can't sniff a championship, they can barely sniff a win. But Chase Elliott, he's number 3 on my underrated list for that reason. It's just a disrespect thing. It's not even about really people doubting him. It's just a disrespect thing. How do you, as a defending champion, and people all of a sudden are like, man, he's going to be second to Larson and Hendrick. So I had to get that off my chest. And with that said, we move to number 2 on our list. Who's at your number 2 spot?
This man saved the number 3 just for a rant. Inspirational. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch my number 2 and my number 1. Number 2, I have another driver probably no one's talking about. Daniel Suarez, driver of the new 99 Trackhouse Racing Team. Now, let me explain. Hey, you put Chase Elliott in the top 3. Okay? I don't want to hear it. I don't want no.
First of all, have you seen his paint schemes?
Better than Chase Elliott.
Definition of fire. All right, the best looking cars in the garage.
Facts. Okay, I'm going to go on a tiny little rant, then I'll get back on Suarez. We need paint schemes that pop. Stop with the fade. Stop with the black. Stop with the blue. Stop with the white, even though those are my 3 favorite colors. Anyway, ignore that. Just actually pop the paint schemes. Make the paint schemes look like, they're actually pop on the track. I'm tired of seeing black, tired of seeing the white, I'm tired of seeing faded colors. I just want to see paint schemes that pop. Those will get me to buy your die cast, and that won't get me to complain. Back on Daniel Suarez. So, yeah, he ran with Gaunt Brothers. Yeah, Gaunt Brothers missed the Daytona 500. Yes, Gaunt Brothers, you might as well look like Riley Herbst in the 18 car in the Xfinity Series. That's how bad they were last year. Anyway, but Suarez, I think it was only one of 3 or 4 drivers last year with 0 DNFs on the season, not counting the duels, points-paying races, even though the duel is a point-paying race. I'll get into that rant for another day. But Suarez, again, one of the only drivers this year, along with Kevin Harvick, and I believe Ty Dillon, who had 0 DNFs on the year. That is very impressive. So Suarez is learning to keep the car in one shape. And he led a lot of laps in the super speedway. We forget Suarez is a very good super speedway racer, with basically them looking like their 3rd RCR car. And with the investment that we're seeing that Pitbull's putting into that team, that 99 car could be and we're talking about RCR going up on the rise, that 99 car, especially, they could very well sneak into the playoffs. And again, with how good Suarez is on these super speedways, with these ECR engines, Chevrolet along with Ford, they're really. Let me just wrap it up here before you go on another rant. You choose your number 1, your number 2. Pretty much say how Jeff Gordon is going to come out of retirement and be the most underrated driver in NASCAR. But Suarez, I would not be surprised to see that 98.9 car. But for my prediction, you know what? I just came up with a prediction just now on the spot. You're not going to hear it until next week. But I know I'm not even going to give any hints. I think Suarez is going to be an underrated. Suarez is going to be. He's going to surprise some people next year.
Suarez is not making the playoffs. Here's what you got to remember about Daniel Suarez. He also had Joe Gibbs equipment, which is the greatest in the garage. Then he had Stuart Haas equipment, which is one of the greatest in the garage. He could do nothing with them. And this will be another new team with another new crew chief and another new head engineer and another new owner. So we'll see. It'd be cool to see him have success. I love the cars so far, the beautiful paint schemes that they've released so far. I see what you're saying with the RCR connection, but I don't know what kind of budget they have. Pitbull helps that, but eventually you've also got to have a driver. And Daniel Suarez so far on the driving side has been a bit rough. When you couldn't do anything with Gibbs, you couldn't do anything with Stuart Haas. You don't have a lot of excuses left. So we will see. But I like the gutsiness right there of putting him on the list. So we will see. My number 2 is a defending Cup Series champion. That is Joey Logano. People forget that Joey Logano won a championship just a few years ago. He has 26 Cup Series wins, and even in this weird, wacky, almost non-existent season for him, he finished 3rd in points because he made it to the finale at Phoenix. People can't forget that Joey Logano, when you hear these title conversations, it's Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, this, that. Where's Joey Logano? He's only there every single year, and nobody's thinking about him. Nobody's talking about him. even in a rough year, Joey Logano finished third in points. And, yeah, he had a sneaky little win in the playoffs that kind of helped catapult him there. But my number 2 underrated driver is Joey Logano because people just aren't talking about him. They sort of had a year where he was not Joey, where he didn't go win 4 races. He was kind of really quiet, had a really weird summer. But I think Joey is a guy that you still got to watch out for. Clearly, he knows how to make it to the finale. So a weird guy to have on my number 2 list, but that's where he is. So now here we are. So far, I want you to go back, list your drivers 5 through 2, and then give your number 1.
Number 5, William Byron. Number 2, Martin Truex Jr. Number 3, number 4 was Austin Dillon. Number 3, Martin Truex Jr. Number 2, Daniel Suarez. Number 1, the lead dog at Hendrick, Alex Bowman. Let's explain. Alex Bowman. You look at the stats. 1 win, 6 top 5s, 15 top 10s. Teammate wins the championship. However, Bowman started the season off extremely strong. He led, I think, like 300 laps, got a win, got a couple top 5s, top 10s. During the summer, very mediocre, very mediocre. He finished, I believe, the regular season like 11th or 12th points. But here's the thing about Bowman. He's ended that season strong. He ended the season very, very strong. I believe he had like only 2 races outside the top 10. He was up front pretty much every week. He could have probably won. He was in the hunt for Texas. He was in the hunt for Martinsville. I believe he was in the hunt for Kansas also. So Bowman and that team, they're finally gaining that consistency. And yes, while Bowman may be under a 1-year contract, he's got full season sponsorship. I don't see why they wouldn't sign Bowman as long as Ally's there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bowman be in that car until 2023. So at least Bowman, I think, is finally going to have that insurance that he hasn't had in his career. Like, okay, am I going to be in this team? I got to worry about funding. He's not going to have that in his head anymore. So he can truly just go out and perform. And we've seen these before we've seen flashes with Bowman. Now, then we've seen hot streaks. I think finally this could be a breakout season for Alex Bowman. Maybe he may not push it to the level of Chase Elliott or even Kyle Larson, but I think Bowman, we talk about with Chevrolet really improving. I think Bowman is going to be that sneaky little dark horse. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the round of 8 again. Call me crazy. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Final Four next year. So I think Alex Bowman, the lead dog at Hendrick, your favorite driver of all – actually, no, Larson's your favorite driver of all time. Your second favorite driver of all time is number 1 on my list.
Yeah, sometimes you say things. I don't know why we do a podcast. I'm not even going to give you the time of day to give my breakdown of that. So to break down my underrated list before I give my number 1, number 5 was Bubba Wallace, or number 5 was Austin Dillon. Number 4 was Bubba Wallace. Number 3, Chase Elliott. Number 2, Joey Logano. My number 1 underrated driver for the 2021 Cup Series season is none other than Kyle Rowdy Busch. I listened to a program the other day with Dave, the Godfather Moody, on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and they were talking about the struggles of Kyle Busch. I only got to listen about 10 or 15 minutes of it. People think this guy might as well just pack his bags. Kyle just doesn't have it anymore. They think he's going to get less than 2 wins this year, which don't get me wrong, he just did that. Maybe he does, right? Kyle Busch's 2020 season, he had a 9.9 average finish. He had a win, 14 top 5s. He had 1 less top 5 than Alex Bowman had top 10s and had 20 top 10s. Again, average finish of a top 10 in his –
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Are you sure you're not mixing – his average finish last year was 13.9.
Maybe I was looking at something.
You're not talking about average start?
I might be talking about average start. I use Racing Reference, and they put them right beside each other. So I may be.
Yeah, for most of the season, his average finish was in the 14th.
Let's go with 13th. His terrible season, he on average finished 13th. Okay? They think this kid is washed. They think Kyle Busch is done. The 2-time cut. He just won the championship 2 years ago. He's done. He might pack his bags. Joe Gibbs might as well move on. He's never going to go out and win 5-6 races a year anymore. After a win, 14 top 5s and 20 top 10s. And there's people that legitimately think Kyle Busch just doesn't have it anymore. And I don't get where this absurdness comes from. I don't get where anybody that would cross their mind. So I think it's pretty crazy to look at that and think that there are people out there that think Kyle Busch just can't get the job done anymore when he's going to be still a championship favorite. Not going to say he's going to go out and win it, but still a championship favorite. Would not be surprised if he wins multiple races. Would not be surprised if he goes out and makes a deep run into the playoffs, if not the championship race. You have weird years. Jeff Gordon had a year or two where he just didn't win a race. It happens. Kyle Busch is getting older, but he is not that old. He is still a bad man on the racetrack. So that is my number one for the underrated list. And obviously, as we hit the 30-minute mark, it is great because now we roll into the second half of the program where we're going to talk about the top 5 overrated drivers.
This is going to be spicy.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. The top 5 overrated drivers heading into the 2021 Cup Series season. So
this just might as well be Kyle Larson.
Listen, I have a list, and I will read my list. So you are going to go first, my friend. Your number 5. So obviously, number 5 is the least of that 5. Number 1 is going to be the most guy. Get this dude. Quit writing news stories about this cat. You're lying. Anyways, number 5 for you, most overrated. What you got?
I'm going to switch my number 5 with my number 3. Actually, no, I'm going to switch. I'm going to do a little bit. Okay, my number 3 is going to be my number 5. My 5 is going to be my 4. My 4 is going to be my 3. Let's get into this. Number 5 on my list, I got Eric Jones, the new driver, the 43. And the main reason is because you talked about it before I've seen with funding. I've seen a lot of takes on Twitter where it's like, Eric Jones, he's going to put that 43 car in places that it's never seen in decades. Eric Jones, I think, is one of the most talented young drivers in the garage. I think that 20 team was hot garbage last year, but you could pin a lot more of that on the entire team as a whole and not just the driver. I just don't know if Eric Jones can overcome a Richard Petty Motorsports car that has basically been stripped of all of its funding and can probably once again be a handshake away from, being out of business. I don't think Eric Jones will make the playoffs next year. I think he'll be I think he can maybe sneak away. Even then, it's like, it's like if they even make the track, honestly. Who knows what the funding for Richard Petty Motorsports is looking like next year. So Eric Jones, I think, has the talent, but he doesn't have, but again, the funding just isn't there. And all these people were saying that he's going to make the playoffs. He's going to do wonders for that 43 team. Maybe in his second year, but at least in this year, I'd be surprised if Eric Jones even has 5 top 10s this year.
I think you make good points there. There's definitely good points to be made there. And my number 5 driver is also Eric Jones. Again, me and you do not go back and forth on these lists, so this is a pure coincidence. Great minds thinking alike here. Every now and then we agree when he does.
I am a god, though.
Yeah.
He sips off my godness.
Eric Jones, there's an argument that Eric Jones has proven he's a better race car driver than Bubba Wallace. But Bubba brought a lot of marketing down. They were already struggling with sponsors for the last handful of years. Things happened with Bubba, and the train got rolling, and a bunch of sponsorship money came in. We saw them run a little bit better. Still never got close to sniffing the playoffs, but they got a little bit better. They have lost all that funding. There's going to be a couple of partners that come by. I'm sure STP may do a thing or two, the Air Force, something like that. But I don't even know how they're running this year. I don't know who's sponsoring that race car. There's no way they have full season sponsorship. And, it's unfortunate that the things where Bubba had to leave for a greater opportunity that you truly just cannot pass up the opportunity Bubba Wallace is getting. But people thinking Eric Jones, he's going to make the 43 car great again. Like, you clearly do not watch the races because the 43 car has not been great since Richard Petty sat in the car. All right. John Andretti did okay. Bobby Labonte had a couple runs, never won in it. The 43 car, it has been a good while. I guess you could argue Eric Almirola, it was okay, but that car is not going to all of a sudden be fast. They could be even worse than they were last year. I realistically expect him to be around 20th to 25th every week unless they just get a major sponsor, and I just don't see that happening. So moving on, number 4, most overrated drivers in 2021. Who you got?
Number 4, I'm going to go with Cup Series rookie Chase Briscoe, driver the number 14. Again, I see a lot of people who think that Chase Briscoe is going to make the playoffs. He's going to win multiple races and make a deep playoff run. We haven't seen that in a rookie in a long time. I mean, Chase Elliott is the one anomaly back in 2016, but Larson didn't make the playoffs. Blaney didn't make the playoffs. Bowman didn't get Bowman's with BK, so obviously not. Byron, Custer did, but he got the win. I mean, he got that win, but even then, it's like that's the only reason he was in the playoffs. Reddick, Bell, all these great rookies, which they will do great things in the future, they weren't able to make the playoffs. Yeah, the schedule is very different with more road courses, so it's going to be with Briscoe's style. Obviously, 750 horsepower will be at Darlington, where he won barely over Kyle Busch. But we've seen it before, where the jump from Xfinity to Cup, even if you have a 9-win season, you have an 8-win season in Xfinity, it's very big. It's a very big gap we've seen it, where, drivers who have won 6+ races can maybe only get 6+ top 10s. So, that's another thing with Briscoe. I don't think he's going to set the world on fire in his rookie season like a lot of people think he's going to. I think he has the capabilities to doing. I think he's a very talented race car driver. But again, just the gap between Xfinity and Cup is too much. And again, really only besides Chase Elliott, we really haven't seen any other rookie in the last decade and a half to do so. So I got Briscoe a number 4 on my list. And mainly just because I just found him. Wait, before you go, he was early. I literally had 4 drivers until I came up with Briscoe like 5 minutes ago.
I actually originally had Briscoe on a potentially underrated list, and I just couldn't make the argument for it. I think Briscoe has the chance to be very solid. He is not Kyle Larson, but he comes from that same cloth. He is like a poor man's Kyle Larson. People forget all his background is in dirt stuff, and he was a young hotshot dirt guy. And remember at Brad Keselowski Racing, you could see the talent immediately. Now, the Cup Series is the Cup Series. It's going to be different. This package is still a little bit different than what he's been dealing with. Actually, it's a lot different than what he's been dealing with. The package is going to be the biggest thing that you're concerned about. But I think he automatically is the second best driver at Stewart-Haas. I think he's going to outperform Cole Custer. He is just a very pure and raw talent, and I like what Briscoe brings to the table. I think there's a shot he could sneak a win. Not very likely. We just haven't seen that in a long time. I do have kind of a hot take prediction next week that may kind of counteract what I just said. But, Briscoe is a guy – the road courses are going to help, and that's one big thing that the road courses may help. I mean, the road courses are 6 races out of 26. I mean, they're almost a quarter of the regular season. If not, I'm not going to do the math in my head. They're close. But anyways, that's going to be a big deal. And then, everybody assumes Kyle Larson's going to win the dirt race. Chase Briscoe has a major dirt background. So keep things like that in your memory as we go. But number 4 on my list is another Chase. Chase Elliott is the number 4 overrated driver heading into the 2021 season. I'm a Chase Elliott fan. People know that. He is a defending champion. He is the number 1 driver at Hendrick Motorsports. But the people that think he is going to go out and win 10, 12 races next year, you are smoking something that I haven't seen before. Right? Chase is not the kind of guy that, first of all, does that. Even in the Xfinity Series days, he was a 2 or 3 win kind of driver. That team still has a lot to work on closing races. I think they have a ton of momentum heading into the year. I think they have a lot of confidence. They finally learned how to close races there at the end of the year. Everyone just assumes, there's 7 playoff races or 7 road course races. He's going to just win all 7 of them. That's not going to happen. If he does that, you might as well go ahead and just put him in the Hall of Fame. As an active driver, put him in the Hall of Fame. If you sweep all 7 road courses, he will now, in that point, be the road course king. And Jeff Gordon should have to bow to him on national television if he wins all 7 road courses, which is not going to happen. I think he wins 1 or 2 road course races. I think he's going to. I think my prediction earlier in the year was about 4. I think it could range anywhere from 3 to 6. So I'm going to kind of go that 4 or 5 win range. I don't expect him to win the championship. It's so hard to win multiple championships, let alone back-to-back championships in this format. People have got to calm down. Chase is going to have a good year. He's going to win some races. He's going to be competitive. But to think he's going to just win 10 races this coming year is absurd to me. I don't see it happening. And I just think it's a little bit of an overreaction. So with that said, number 3, who you got?
Number 3, I got the driver of the 21, Matt DiBenedetto. Another one of your favorite drivers who you love so much. I know you're just raving that I put him on this overrated list. Here's the thing about Matt DiBenedetto. He's another driver. I think he has the capabilities, but that 21 team, you can argue they kind of performed where I expected them to perform last year. Going from the mediocrity of Paul Menard to Matt DiBenedetto. I think DiBenedetto is a big upgrade over Menard, your favorite driver, but but even then, it's like that 21 car. Ever since really, even like when Blaney was in it, it's never been. It's never going to be on that level of Penske. De Benedetto really only once or twice, not even really only one time that entire last year, he was in a position to win the race. And if he won that race, I mean, Talladega, he would have gotten that win thrown away anyway because of the below the yellow line rule. So Matt Benedetto, he's got to learn to put himself in that position to win races. Yeah, he did that at Bristol back in the 95 car, but that 95 car, like, it had more speed than that 21 car, in my opinion. You can see what the laps led. I think he led like 145. He led 145 laps, I believe, in the 95, and I think he only led double-digit laps with the 21 car. So I don't think the Benedetto is going to go out, he barely limped it to the playoffs. And Jimmy Johnson would have not got caught up in that wreck. He probably would have made the playoffs over Matt. So
he's going to do all this. I mean, again, he's probably going to do the same as he did in 2020, maybe with a little more urgency because, again, we don't know where he's going to be next year. But I don't think he's going to do the performance that he's done, Whereas, like, everyone thinks he's going to have 20-some top 10s, multiple points, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And number 3 on my list is Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto is a guy I've had a lot of takes on. You know this following me. And people just assume he's going to win and he's going to do this and he's going to make the Wood Brothers this title contender and this and that. And he's not. Matt DiBenedetto does not know how to close out races. He does not know how to win races. He had a couple opportunities last year, and I get it. A lot of it's the package and you couldn't pass, you couldn't do this, but he just flat out got beat on restarts when he finally had the shot to get a win. So Matt DiBenedetto is number 3 on my list for the same thing. He's just a fan favorite hype train. I like him. I want Matt DiBenedetto to win. I would absolutely love to see Matt DiBenedetto win. He's probably the number 1 guy I would like to see get his first win. It would make me look like a fool, but I'm fairly confident that I just don't know if that's going to happen. Matt DiBenedetto is just a really nice guy. I hope it for him, but he has time and time again shown that he does not have the aggressiveness or the talent at this point to go out and win races. There's a difference. Him and Daniel Hemrick are the same guy, except he's gotten more opportunities at the cup level. Neither one of them have been able to win, and we'll have to see if they can make it happen. So, getting down to the wire here, top 2 drivers. Who is your number 2 overrated driver heading into 2021?
Number 2 is your boy Chase Elliott. I don't really got to go into depth with it because you already mentioned it. I don't know why he was on your underrated list. I mean, you talk about smoking some crack. You were smoking that crack when you were making that list. Let me just tell you that. But you pretty much just hit the nail. He's not going to win all 7 road course races. He'll probably win maybe like 2 or 3 of them. But again, he's not going to go out and win 40-plus playoff points, like 100 playoff points, dominate the championship. We've seen it. I talked about it before. We've seen it with Harvick, where you can have all the playoff points in the world and you can still miss the Final Four. So Chase Elliott, he's number 2 on my list.
Number 2 on my list, that is a fair point, like I said earlier. Number 2 on my list is Bubba Wallace. He also made both lists. Though I do think Bubba is more talented than people give him credit for, there is another whole base of NASCAR social media that seems to think Bubba Wallace is going to go out and win 3-4 races, make the playoffs, and it's just, oh man, it's going to be amazing. And there's a chance. But I always have this rule sometimes where I try to think, what if I was betting money on this? And I would be more than likely to bet money that he does not win than he does right now. Because if I bet money that he's going to go win these races and it doesn't happen, you're going to be like, well, of course, he's never won a cup race for a reason. Why would you think he's going to magically win 3-4 races? But if I bet money on the no wins, I can't really blame myself because I'm going off of a track record. And I think, me and you have discussed it. I think the biggest question mark with this team is how competitive are they really? If you're turning away sponsors, I'm assuming you have the entire budget that you want, maybe even more. I think this is probably the closest to being a legitimate 5th Gibbs car. If that is the case, Bubba has every resource to win races. But I cannot buy into that until I see it. But there's people that out here that automatically just think, man, put him in the playoffs, 3 or 4 wins. He's there, and he's going to just put the world on fire. And I just don't. Bubba still has to learn how to run up front. I think we could see situations that Bubba makes mistakes up front, sort of like Noah Gragson, where you're having to learn to be in that spot. You have to learn how to run 4th and 5th before you learn how to win races. It is a completely different culture in the front of the field than it is in 20th. And so you have to learn how to do that. And so we'll see. I think Bubba is talented enough. That's why he was on the underrated list. I think he is talented, more than talented people give him credit for. But people have to slow down on the assumptions they're going to win 3 or 4 races and be a championship threat, because that is just a far cry of what's going on. And teams in their first year always have learning curves. And, obviously all the money and the funding helps. The relationship with Joe Gibbs helps. But you're always going to have bumps in the road. So number 2 on my list is Bubba Wallace. So for your number 1, do the same thing. Give us 4 through 2. Give us your number 1 overrated driver, and let's wrap up this thing.
All right, number 5, Eric Jones. Number 4, Chase Briscoe. Number 3, Matthew Benedetto. Number 2, Chase Elliott. I almost forgot that. Inspirational, frankly. Number 1, probably the same guy. It hurts my soul to say this. It's my number 1 driver for next year, Kyle Larson. Look, I think Larson is going to be the most talented guy in the field. I think he's the most talented driver at Hendrick. But, keyword is but, he hasn't been in the Cup car in 10 months. I think he's got the talent to make that up. But again, even with this package, we've seen him struggle. He only got, I believe, he only got 17 top 10s in the 2019 season, only, I believe, 7 top 5. He got that win at Dover, though. But again, Larson hasn't been in the Cup car. Going to Hendrick, a Chevrolet team with those same, not really those same men, but that same, I guess, package they was running at Ganassi, it's going to help. I would love to see Larson just go out and completely dominate the field. That would be fantastic. But even then, with the Bristol dirt race, everyone's going to say that he's going to lead every single lap. Remember, that race is 250 laps. I would not be surprised if Larson gets caught up in a wreck, because you got Quinn Howell, who's probably never run a dirt race in his life, and then completely takes him out. So there's just too much hype for Larson that even I'm accustomed to. I think Larson is going to do wonders next year. I predict him to have 19 or 20 top 10s, have a couple wins, double-digit top 5s, top 10 points finish. But the thing's going to make the Final Four, so win 5 races. Even for someone like me who's a diehard Larson fan, even that's going too far. So I got Larson at number 1, and you don't even need to make it big, extravagant.
Number 5 is Eric Jones. My number 4 is Chase Elliott. My number 3 is Matt Benedetto. My number 2 is Bubba Wallace. And now number 1, and that is Young Money Kyle Larson.
There it is.
Young Money Kyle Larson is the most overrated driver coming into the Cup Series. Not because I don't like him, not because I don't think he's talented, not because I don't think he deserves to be back, not that I'm not happy to see him back. Again, this goes to my rant earlier. The dude has been gone for 10 months. He has struggled to win at the Cup level ever since he's gotten to the Cup level. He has thrown away more races than he has won. And yet you're telling me he is the number 1 driver at Hendrick Motorsports over the defending Cup Series champion who has nearly double the Cup wins that Kyle Larson has. I like Larson. I hope he does well. But I see we had a debate this past weekend that he could be the greatest driver on the planet. And I'm like, have none of you guys heard of Juan Pablo Montoya? Has nobody heard of Juan Montoya? He blew up a jet dryer at Daytona a few years ago. And that's the dumbest thing I ever hear NASCAR fans say, but apparently that's what you got to do to ring their bell. NASCAR fans piss me off with their disrespect of Juan Montoya. But and Armany's part of the reason I believe in this. I mean, Juan Montoya is a world-class racing talent. He has won races at the biggest stage in 3 or 4, if not 5, that I just don't know about, world racing stages in the planet. F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA. Hell, he's probably won a race that I didn't even care about overseas that no one even knew about. He could probably get in the Kentucky Derby and finish in the top 5. I mean, Juan Montoya is that guy. Kyle Larson is great on dirt, fantastic on dirt, and he is probably the best dirt driver on the planet right this second. It has nothing to do with NASCAR racing. Is it great to have as an experience? Is it a skill set that some things do translate? Of course it does. Car control is awesome. But let me tell you, these Cup cars drive absolutely nothing like a dirt car. For one, I don't know if anybody's watched any races in the last 70 years. They run on asphalt, not dirt. All right. Second, the cars and aero packages are so different than any sprint car, late model, midget, whatever you want to run. Larson is great. I respect that. He has the argument to be the most talented driver there is right now. But they all of a sudden make him the number one guy over the defending Cup champion. To think that he's been out of the car for 10 months and he is just going to rule the roost of the Cup Series and be the talk of the town and win 5-6 races and be a championship threat. People have to slow down. It's just take a breath and realize what you were saying. And he struggled with this package before he left. Yeah, he started out 2020 nice before he decided to almost ruin his career. But he's always struggled in this package. He has struggled to close out races, period. So me and you thinking on the same page here. I'm glad you were able to open your eyes and realize there's one true. No, you could almost throw out the other 4 drivers. This is the one guy I had to have on my list. He could have been
Larson, if you're watching this, which please prove us wrong.
It's just crazy because people think I hate Kyle Larson. I would love to meet Kyle. I hope, the dirt tracks I'm working at, maybe one day I'll get to run into Kyle. I think he's legitimately learned a lot about what he did last year. I think he legitimately earned his way back to the Cup Series. But there's no doubt about it. He's overhyped. I can sit there with my own self and say that Chase Elliott is overrated and underrated for me. People think Chase is still, most of Twitter hates him and doesn't give him the respect he deserves. But a lot of people are out there with what they think Chase Elliott is capable of doing and the type of driver that I think he can be. But there are some Kyle Larson stands out here. They just say like NASCAR's easy. He's just going to come back and win 10 races and just be the guy. And you've got to slow down. He didn't do that before. We'll call it the break. We'll call it the break that he took last year. He did great on dirt. He's done great. The Chili Bowl. Maybe he goes out and wins the Daytona 500. Wouldn't that be a freaking story? But we can at least say that. Me and you agree. Kyle Larson.
I will be right back.
Going in. All right, cool. Yeah, Kyle Larson going in. I don't know what Armany's doing, but I'll take care of him. So y'all let me see if y'all are in here. Y'all can comment in the chat who y'all think. Larson is a guy that he needs to be well for the sport. He needs to perform well for the sport this year. I think he's going to run well at times. I don't necessarily know he goes out and wins the dirt race. I think that's a given. And whenever you typically have givens in NASCAR, that's not what ends up happening. So we'll be interested to see what happens there. But Armany's back. Armany, we're getting out of here the show. I know you got a couple places you got to go. I've got to go to bed because I got to work out. So anything else you want to plug or talk about before we roll out of here?
No, make sure to check out next week's episode for our season predictions. Knowing this guy, he's going to say like Jeff Gordon come out of retirement and win his 5th straight championship.
I try to use some sort of common sense. You're going to probably like Anthony Alfredo makes the Daniel Suarez wins 3 out of 4 playoff or restricted plate races. Something dumb like that. So we appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody watching. Next week really is going to be one of our favorite episodes. I love predictions. Armany loves predictions. I've been doing predictions now for 5 or 6 years in a row with the NASCAR Opinion brand. Typically, I'll go on here same, and then I'll tweet them out a little bit later. But I'm trying to make sure I put them here first. I love predictions. Half the time I'm wrong, half the time I'm right, but that's the point of making them. We don't know what's going to happen until the end of November to really look at the full season. So we appreciate everybody listening. Make sure you're following World Racing Media on our Instagram and on our Twitter page. Again, thank everybody for listening and tuning in. Armany, if you want to go meet Armany, he's going to be asleep in the Daytona grandstands this weekend. So,
go chuck me onto the road. Go chuck me onto the racetrack if you're, if you can.
And if you're any teams, he's available to drive.
Hey, you need a driver. I'm right here. Listen, you need a driver. Right. I got my gloves in my car.
Yeah, you may or may not see Armany just randomly pull onto the racetrack in his personal vehicle at some point. But anyways, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna roll out. It's getting a little bit late at night. We appreciate everybody listening. And with that said, we will see you next week.